Hi everybody. In this video I'm going to talk to you about strategy 4, and as you can see I'm kind of working my way up to having the students write arguments, and in this stage they're going to evaluate other people's arguments. This is something I use in kind of a number of different ways, but primarily to practice ACT skills. So I compare and contrast two different arguments or two different viewpoints, which is one of the skills that students have to address in the science subsection of the ACT. And so it's it's got a number of different possible uses. And so I hope you'll find it to be helpful. So here's how I do it. I put in a source of evidence of some kind and then a little bit of a description here underneath. Typically for me, the evidence source is a data table or a graph or a set of graphs, or a data table and a graph, something along those lines. So I may have multiple data sources in there, but for me I need something that they can look at and then try to evaluate, sort of like what you see on the ACT science subsection. And then down here in the red I have the viewpoint number 1, and then in blue I have viewpoint number 2, excuse me. Then as a group, usually, we go through and try to come up with the criteria for what makes an argument a good one in the subject of science. And so we kind of flesh that out just a little bit together, typically. And then we list those criteria as succinctly as we can, going down in this column right there. Over here I have places where we can rank each one. Now, I will be honest with you, I teach engineering as well as physics, and in engineering, everything we do, every decision we make, just about, we have to do a decision matrix for it. And so this is where this originally comes from, in conjunction with this article right here, which is an article from one of the younger science teacher journals, the NSTA's Science Scope. This one happens to be from November 2013. I find some of the younger, like middle school aged journals tend to have more creative thinking and tend to be more willing to take risks in certain areas, like adding writing into a rigorous science class or boosting up the amount of writing in a rigorous science class. And so I think I often find inspiration from that. I'm also a former middle school teacher, so I kind of, in some respects, remember with fondness those days. So it's kind of nice to keep up on what's going on in that particular level. Anyway, so here's the description, or here's the view of the actual template itself. And I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down if I can, just to see if I can get it to fit in there. There we go. Again, another spreadsheet. I know I am obsessed. I get it. So I think you can kind of see how things work out here. One of the things that you maybe have not thought about before is that right here I have a drop-down menu. So it really forces the students to pick one of two possible options here. And what you'll see is I've already put in a formula right here that will then add those up. So let's imagine for a minute that I have my criteria here, and I'm going to go ahead and put in, I think that one is a number 1, this one is a number 2, this one is a number 2, and another number 1, and so on. And you can see that it's already starting to tally it down at the bottom here. I like the idea of drop-down menus because it keeps everything a lot cleaner and really sort of focuses the students in on picking rather than trying to come up with an answer. Picking an answer rather than developing one out of thin air sometimes is a little trickier. Is a better option to do, because obviously coming up with your own answers is pretty tricky. And in this case, since I really want to limit it to only a number 1 or a number 2, I went ahead and made those drop-down boxes. You could skip that step if you wanted to. One thing that's important to remember is that you should always list off what 1 and 2 actually mean. And so in this case, I'm saying that 2, because it is more points, is actually the better of the two options. And 1, because it is less points, is actually the worst of the two options. That is not always the case in decision matrices, because some people go the other way. They say, anything ranked number 1 should be the best, and anything ranked number 2 should be second best. The reason I bring that up is because by me choosing to rank number 2 as the better of the two options, then that means that when I compare these two, I'm actually looking for the one that is higher in number and not lower in number. And so it's important to remember that. And so I've listed that off here. The argument with the most points wins. I would change that if I was one of those people who wanted 1 to signify the best and 2 to signify the second best. I would change this to say the argument with the least points wins. Either way is fine. Anyway, and then I always have them jot down a sentence or two about which argument is the better of the two based on their criteria here and what they decided for the numbers. I have had cases in the past where students have ranked one as a winner and then chosen to go against that for some reason, and then I demand at that point that they have a pretty good explanation for why that's the case. Okay, so here's an example from physics, and you can kind of see it's very, I tried as hard as I could writing it myself to make it something that they might see on a ACT, but also something that they might actually practice in my class. And so here I have a graph showing the motions of objects in our Milky Way galaxy, which has the actual observed motions in red, and then the predicted motions based on certain theories in dashed black right there. And so argument 1 and argument 2 are trying to formulate explanations for why the dashed black prediction is different from the actual observed values. And so I put in some of the criteria here already, and I pulled those from the, again, from the article that I showed you here before. And so I pulled in some of those from that, and then I would have them formulate another couple of possible criteria, and then they could go through and do their measurements. So for me, does the argument reference the data correctly? Yes, I think they both actually reference the data correctly. One of the nice things about this validation method is that the students, there is a little bit of a help message that comes with it. So if they get lost, you can kind of figure out what that should be. I think if I highlight this, no, I guess not. Okay, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't figured out the Google method for it yet. If you're interested in never doing something like that for drop-down boxes, they're actually really easy. You come up here to data and then go down to data validation. And when you pick data validation, you basically are saying, in this cell, I want you to pick from these possible options. So some other section of your spreadsheet, you have to have a list of possible options that you want in that particular cell. So for me, it was easy. I just picked these two because I was already going to put down the key right here, so that was no problem. Then you just come down here and say, make sure that this is checked, show drop-down list in cell, and then that should be good. I oftentimes also do the show validation help text, which is what I was looking for before, but it doesn't seem to pop up there. So, oh well, there it is. Anyway, so as if I were going to go through this, you can read through this at your leisure if you want. You have access to it, but you could figure out how you would rank this. Again, I think that they're very similar in certain aspects, but then when they get to be a little different here is down here at the bottom, do they agree with accepted theory? And my recollection is that the, there you go, argument 2 is the one that has the best relationship with the accepted theory. And so if you go down through this, you're going to see that argument 2 should end up having the most points, and then they'll be able to explain why that is the case here down here at the bottom. You could also do kind of a weighted category. So I just have it adding right here, but you could have each one of these categories worth a different amount of points if you wanted to. You could even use it as a rubric if you wanted to, something along those lines. Anyway, so that's where that's at. Again, trying to focus on what I think is important here, which is the two aspects. The number one, can you get experience with and practice ACT skills? And then number two, can you take a source of evidence and then relate it back to arguments made by that evidence or made from that evidence, and then weigh those. So that's where I'm at. If you have any questions or concerns or problems, please let me know. All right. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.